The suitcase hit the front porch before Marcus Bennett did. It bounced once, slid across the polished stone, and burst open in the rain. Clothes scattered across the driveway, and a framed wedding photo shattered on the pavement. Marcus quietly picked it up, brushed away the broken glass, and placed it inside his suitcase. Behind him, his wife, Victoria, stood in the doorway with folded arms.
Take your things and leave.
You heard me, she said coldly. Take your things and leave. Moments earlier, guests had been celebrating Victoria's biggest business victory, a $65 million international contract that promised to change her life. Now every eye watched as she threw her husband out of their mansion. Marcus looked at her calmly. If that's what you really want, he said, I'll go. Without arguing or begging, he picked up his suitcase and drove away. 3 days later, Victoria entered the most important meeting of her career. She opened the final contract, then froze. Every approval page carried the same signature. Marcus Bennett. The man she had thrown out was the final person standing between her company and $65 million. But to understand why, we need to go back 7 years. Marcus wasn't the kind of man who demanded attention. He was quiet, dependable, and believed that if something mattered, it deserved his best effort. Victoria met him at a university networking event. She dreamed of building a global consulting company. Marcus attended only because his boss insisted. Their conversation turned into coffee, coffee became dinner, and within a year they were married. From the beginning, Marcus believed in Victoria's dream. When the bank rejected her business loan, he emptied his savings. When she couldn't afford office furniture, he restored second-hand desks himself. When payroll became difficult, he secretly worked extra consulting jobs to keep the company alive. If she needed encouragement, he gave it. If she needed money, he found it. If she needed someone to believe in her, he never stopped. The early years were painful. Some months the company barely survived. One evening, after their electricity was disconnected because they had paid an employee instead, Victoria broke down. I don't think I'm good enough, she whispered. Marcus smiled gently. You know what I see? Someone who's still fighting when most people would have quit. Years later, the sacrifices finally paid off. New clients arrived. Revenue doubled, then tripled. Their tiny apartment became a beautiful home, and Victoria's company earned national recognition. When she won Entrepreneur of the Year, she hugged Marcus. We did it. Marcus smiled. You did it. She shook her head. No, we. For a while, success brought them closer. Then success slowly changed everything. During interviews, Victoria stopped mentioning Marcus. My husband believed in me, became my family supported me. Eventually it became, I built this company through resilience and determination. Marcus noticed but stayed silent.
This is what
Then
resilience
she stopped inviting
built.
him to business dinners.
Years of
You wouldn't enjoy
sacrifice
this
and
one.
faith.
It's mostly
Now
investors.
we succeed in
Just
public.
be bored. He always smiled. No problem. One Friday evening, Victoria rushed home with exciting news. A global consulting giant wanted to partner with her company. Marcus embraced her. Victoria, that's incredible. I have to prepare, she said, reaching for her laptop. What can I do to help? She paused. Actually, nothing. She disappeared into her office. Marcus remained standing alone in the kitchen. It was the first time she hadn't asked him to help rehearse a presentation or review her strategy. He told himself not to overthink it. He had no idea that this small moment was the beginning of the distance that would eventually destroy their marriage and place the future of Victoria's company in his hands. Marcus stood outside Victoria's office before quietly returning to the kitchen. The lemon herb salmon he'd made for dinner had gone cold. 2 plates sat on the table. Only one had been touched. She must really be nervous, he whispered. He packed her meal away and went to bed alone. At 2:30 a.m., Victoria finally came home. How did it go? Marcus asked. It went well, she replied with a tired smile. I'm proud of you. She hugged him briefly before her phone rang. Pulling away, she answered immediately and walked out of the room. Marcus couldn't explain it. There had been no argument, no harsh words, yet he suddenly felt like a spectator in his own marriage. As Victoria's business expanded, her schedule became relentless. Breakfast meetings, investor dinners, weekend retreats, and international calls. Marcus adapted without complaint. He handled the groceries, laundry, housework, and even planned date nights that were usually canceled. I'm sorry, Victoria would say. The board moved the meeting. It happens, Marcus always replied. He wasn't upset about the wasted reservations. He simply missed spending time with his wife. Soon Victoria's company was everywhere. Business magazines featured her. Podcasts praised her leadership. Her name became well known across the industry. At a grocery store, a cashier recognized Marcus. "You're Victoria Bennett's husband, right? She must make you proud." Marcus smiled. "She does." He meant it. One evening, Victoria returned with designer dresses for upcoming events. "This one's for the Global Leadership Gala. And this one is for my Forbes interview." Marcus kissed her forehead. "You deserve all of it." "I've worked really hard," she said. "You have." After a long silence, Victoria sighed. "Sometimes I wish people understood how much pressure I'm under." "I do." She shook her head. "No, I don't think you do. You leave work and come home. I make decisions that affect hundreds of employees." Marcus nodded. "You're probably right." Then she quietly added, "Sometimes I feel like I'm carrying this family too." The words hit harder than she realized. "What does that mean?" Marcus asked. "I didn't mean it like that," she quickly replied. "I'm just stressed." He accepted the apology. But for the first time, he wasn't sure everything was all right. Weeks later, Victoria invited Marcus to the company's annual celebration. Employees greeted him warmly, but Victoria spent the evening surrounded by executives and investors. When a photographer asked for a picture of the couple, she hesitated. Maybe later. Later never came. Marcus found himself seated with junior managers while Victoria dined with company executives. Eventually she approached him. "The investors are arriving." "I'll stay out of the way," Marcus said. She hesitated. "I actually think it'd be better if you went home." He looked at her. "Home? The conversations tonight are different. High level." Marcus understood exactly what she meant. "If that's what you want." Relief crossed her face. "Thank you for understanding." As Marcus walked toward the exit, he overheard two employees whispering. "I didn't even know she was married. I heard he doesn't really have anything to do with the business." He kept walking. That night, Victoria accepted another award before hundreds of guests. She thanked her team, her investors, her partners. Marcus's name was never mentioned. 3 months later, everything changed. Victoria's company was selected for exclusive negotiations on what many called the deal of the decade. $65 million. Television interviews followed. Magazine covers. Celebrity invitations. Her social media exploded. At one celebration, a wealthy investor toasted her. "You built this empire from nothing." Victoria smiled. "I did." An older guest asked, "Your husband couldn't make it tonight?" Victoria took a sip of champagne. "He's not really part of this world." She no longer said we. She only said I. A few days later, Victoria came home carrying the final contract. "It's happening," she said excitedly. Marcus hugged her. "I'm so happy for you." She gently stepped away. "I need to review everything." Marcus smiled. "I'll make some coffee." As he turned toward the kitchen, Victoria looked at him for a long moment. Then she quietly asked, "Marcus, have you ever wondered if we've become different people?" Question hung in the air. Marcus slowly turned around. "I think people grow," he replied calmly. "That's not what I asked." She placed the leather folder on the table. "I'm asking if we're still right for each other." Marcus frowned. "Where is this coming from?" "I've been thinking about it for months." "Months?" She nodded. "You've been questioning our marriage all this time?" "I didn't want anything distracting me before closing the deal." Marcus stared at her. "So our marriage became a distraction?" Silence filled the room. Finally, Marcus pulled out a chair. "Sit. No phones. No meetings. Just tell me what's going on." Victoria sat down. "I've changed," she admitted. "We both have." "No. I've changed more." She looked him in the eye. "I have different responsibilities, different goals, and I don't think you fit into the life I'm building anymore." Marcus didn't get angry. He simply looked hurt. "What does that mean?" "I spend my days with CEOs, investors, government officials, multinational executives. And then there's me." She nodded. "You don't belong in those rooms." Marcus asked quietly, "Have I ever embarrassed you?" "No." "Stop supporting your dreams?" "No." "Then what have I done wrong?" "You haven't." "Then why don't I belong?" Victoria finally spoke the words she'd rehearsed. "Because you've stopped growing." Marcus almost smiled. "I didn't stop growing. You've stayed comfortable. I enjoy my work. You never chased success." He looked at her. "I chased peace." At that moment, Marcus realized this wasn't about careers anymore. Somewhere along the way, Victoria had started measuring people's value by status. And he no longer measured up. The next morning, Marcus left before sunrise, leaving a handwritten note beside the coffee machine. Good luck with today's negotiations. I'm proud of you. Victoria barely glanced at it before answering an exciting phone call. They approved it? She laughed. The deal is ours. Marcus learned the news hours later from a financial website. Victoria Bennett's firm secures historic $65 million agreement. Despite everything, he smiled. He stopped on his way home and bought her favorite white lilies. When he arrived, the mansion was packed with guests. Luxury cars filled the driveway. Champagne flowed. A jazz band played while Victoria stood proudly before nearly 50 investors and executives. Marcus quietly set the flowers on the counter. A server approached him. Sir, are you with the catering company? Marcus smiled politely. No, I'm Victoria's husband. The young man turned red with embarrassment. Marcus simply walked on. After Victoria finished thanking her investors, Marcus congratulated her. I brought you flowers. They're nice, she replied without much emotion. Before they could continue, a sharply dressed executive approached. Victoria, she smiled brightly. Daniel, they embraced warmly. Turning to Marcus, Daniel asked, And you are? Before Marcus could answer, Victoria said, This is Marcus. Daniel shook his hand. Victoria's built something incredible. Marcus smiled. She certainly has. Daniel added, Amazing what one determined person can accomplish. Neither Marcus nor Victoria corrected him. Later, Marcus overheard two investors talking. So she's single? I don't think so. I've never seen her husband. I heard they're basically separated. Marcus quietly walked away. Victoria eventually found him standing alone outside. You should mingle. I have. She sighed. Some people think you're staff. Marcus chuckled softly. I noticed. She looked directly at him. You don't really fit in here. I've heard that before. I'm serious. So am I. They expect someone different. What kind of different? She hesitated. Someone who matches where my company is headed. Marcus stared at her. When did success become a reason to be ashamed of the people who loved you before you had it? She looked away. I never said I was ashamed. You didn't have to. Daniel appeared. The investors are waiting. Victoria nodded. We'll talk tomorrow. Marcus watched her disappear into the crowd. The following morning, the mansion was silent. Victoria walked into the kitchen carrying a large envelope. She placed it in front of Marcus. We need to have that conversation. Marcus looked down. What is this? Her voice never wavered. Divorce papers. He stared at the envelope before looking back at the woman he'd spent 7 years supporting. Is this really what you want? Yes. Marcus reached for the envelope, just as the front doorbell rang. The doorbell rang. Victoria opened it to find 3 lawyers from Sterling & Cole, the firm representing Northbridge Global. Mrs. Bennett? Yes. We're here regarding tomorrow's contract execution. Marcus recognized the firm's name immediately. As the lawyers entered, one of them smiled at Marcus. I believe we'll be seeing you very soon, Mr. Bennett. Victoria frowned, confused, but Marcus quietly picked up his jacket and left. The next afternoon, the executive conference room was filled with investors, attorneys, government observers, and Northbridge executives. Everything was ready for the signing of the $65 million agreement. Victoria walked in confidently beside Daniel, receiving applause from everyone present. The lead attorney announced, before signatures, we'll complete one final compliance review. Victoria barely listened. It was routine. Then the conference room doors opened. Marcus walked in wearing a charcoal business suit with a security badge clipped to his jacket. The room immediately fell silent. The lead attorney smiled. Perfect timing. He shook Marcus's hand before addressing everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the Senior Director of Strategic Regulatory Compliance, Mr. Marcus Bennett. A large screen displayed his title. Victoria froze. Daniel whispered, Your husband? She could barely answer. I didn't know. Marcus greeted the room with calm professionalism. Assistants distributed the contracts. Victoria opened hers. Every approval page carried the same signature. Reviewed and approved, Marcus Bennett. Her hands began to shake. When asked for his final recommendation, Marcus stood. My office identified 3 material compliance deficiencies. The room became silent. He calmly explained incomplete ownership disclosures, inconsistent financial statements, and an unresolved international licensing approval. Executing this agreement today would violate regulatory requirements, he concluded. My recommendation is to delay signing until every issue is resolved. Northbridge's CEO immediately agreed. So be it. Instead of criticizing Marcus, executives praised him. Excellent work. You just saved everyone from serious legal exposure. Victoria watched in disbelief. For the first time, she saw Marcus through other people's eyes, not as the quiet husband she'd overlooked, but as a respected professional whose judgment everyone trusted. After the meeting, she found him standing alone by the windows. I'm sorry, she whispered. Marcus looked at her. I thought you weren't ambitious. He remained silent. I never even asked what you actually did. You never did, he replied gently. Tears filled her eyes. I thought success meant standing above people. Marcus shook his head. It means being responsible for more people. I hurt you. You did. Can you forgive me? I forgave you yesterday. Hope returned to her face. Then he quietly added, but forgiveness doesn't always repair what's been broken. Her smile disappeared. Before leaving, Marcus said, I still hope your company succeeds. She stared at him. After everything, I always wanted you to succeed. Weeks later, the compliance issues were resolved, and the contract was finally signed. The headlines celebrated Victoria's achievement, but the victory no longer felt the same. Marcus had moved into a small apartment across town. One evening, Victoria visited him carrying white lilies, the same flowers he used to bring home for her. I almost didn't answer the door, Marcus admitted. I wouldn't have blamed you. Inside, she noticed there were no awards or trophies. Just books, coffee, and peace. I finally understand what you meant, she said, when you said you chased peace instead of success. Marcus smiled. It took me a long time to learn the difference. So did I. They talked for an hour, not about money or business, but about life. As she prepared to leave, she asked, I don't know what tomorrow looks like. Neither do I, Marcus replied. She thanked him for never trying to destroy her. Marcus smiled. The truth didn't need my help. Victoria walked away knowing she had lost the one person who had believed in her before anyone else ever did. Success had given her everything she wanted, but it had cost her the one thing she truly needed. Sometimes success doesn't take away what matters most. It simply convinces us we no longer need it. Wealth, influence, and recognition can never replace loyalty, humility, or the people who believed in us from the very beginning. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Should Marcus have given Victoria a second chance? Or did she lose that chance when she chose ambition over loyalty? Let us know in the comments, and we'll see you in the next story.